and Vogue sold more than 20 million records. They were the biggest female R&B group in America. And by 1997, the woman who sang lead on their biggest hits says each member was earning 2 cents for every album sold. Not $2. 2 cents. Their first advance was $40,000, split 4 ways. $10,000 each to build a group that would sell 20 million records. Meanwhile, the 2 men who wrote and produced those records held the songwriting credits and the production credits on every hit, which means the publishing money and the producer royalties flowed to them, not to the 4 women singing. One of those producers reportedly went on to own more than one home. Dawn Robinson, the voice on Hold On and My Lovin', spent the last 3 years living in her car. So we traced where the money actually went, through the record certifications, the songwriting credits, and the members' own accounts of the deals they signed. This is what the trail shows. To understand where the money went, you have to go back to Oakland, California in 1988. 2 producers, Denzel Foster and Thomas McElroy, had just come off a run of hits with the group club Nouveau. Instead of discovering a group and signing it, they set out to build one from nothing, and they auditioned around 3,000 women to do it. This was a manufactured group, before manufactured groups were the norm, assembled inside a recording studio, one voice at a time. And the men building it were open about the design. Years later, McElroy told Entertainment Weekly exactly what they were looking for. They wanted the women beautiful, but not too beautiful. Intelligent, but not nerds. And more than anything, when they sang, they wanted people to say, "Wow." Sit with that for a second, because it tells you what the group actually was. It was a product, engineered to a specification, and the specification came from the 2 men who would end up owning the songs. The 4 women they chose were Dawn Robinson, Cindy Herron, Terry Ellis, and Maxine Jones. And the product worked immediately. In 1990, their debut album Born to Sing went platinum, and the single Hold On climbed to number 2 on the charts. 2 years later came Funky Divas, 3 times platinum, carried by My Lovin', Free Your Mind, and Giving Him Something He Can Feel. 4 women in matching outfits dominating MTV, selling in the tens of millions. Free Your Mind alone put a black female group on rock radio at a time when almost nobody thought that was possible. The blueprint they built, 4 glamorous voices with hard harmonies and high fashion, became the template that girl groups would copy for the next decade. They earned the industry's respect, too, at least on paper. Over their career, En Vogue collected multiple Grammy nominations, which puts them among the most nominated acts in history never to actually win one. And here is the detail that matters for this story. All that success, all those nominations, all those platinum plaques, and almost none of the money reached the 4 women on the cover. To see why, you have to stop looking at the records and start looking at who owned the songs. Here is how the money on a hit record actually splits. There are 3 main buckets. There is the artist royalty, which goes to the people singing. There is the songwriting royalty, the publishing, which goes to whoever wrote the song. And there is the producer royalty, which goes to whoever produced the record. On En Vogue's hits, Foster and McElroy held the writing credits and the production credits. That means 2 of the 3 biggest buckets flowed straight to the 2 producers, and the singers were left with 1 bucket, the smallest and most fragile of the 3. And it got narrower than that. According to Robinson, on Funky Divas, the women were told they could not write the songs, which meant they earned no publishing royalties at all. The money that would have come from writing the biggest R&B records of the decade went to Foster and McElroy instead. The 4 women were left with the artist royalty and nothing else. Now here is why even that last bucket came up nearly empty. Walk through a single album. In a standard major label deal in the 1990s, The label fronts the money for everything. It pays for the recording sessions in the studio. It pays for the music videos, which in that era regularly ran $500,000 to $1 million each. It pays for the tour buses and the road crew. And then it charges every one of those dollars back against the artist's royalty account before the artist is paid anything. That is called recoupment. So a group could sell 1 million copies, watch the label bank the retail money, and still owe that same label for the videos and the tours that sold the records in the first place. Even the touring did not rescue them, because the tour support was recoupable too, which meant the concerts that looked like profit were quietly billed back to the group. After recoupment, it was common for a 1990s artist to clear well under $1 per album, and often far less than that. For En Vogue, Robinson has put a hard number on it. By that point, she says, the group had sold 28 million records, and each member was earning 2 cents an album. The women who defined the sound of an era were being paid in pennies. That is the structure. Now watch what happened when someone from outside walked in and tried to break it. At the height of En Vogue's run, the rapper MC Hammer sat down with the group. Hammer knew this world from the inside, and he would later become a cautionary tale himself about how fast music money can vanish. Cindy Herron told him what the group was actually being paid. According to Robinson, Hammer's reaction was immediate. He told them they were the biggest thing on the charts, and they were making 2 cents a record, and something was badly wrong with that picture. Then he did something concrete about it. He paid for the group to spend a full day with his own attorney so they could finally understand the deal they were in. For one day, the door was open. The women were sitting with a lawyer, looking at the real numbers for the first time. And then, according to Robinson, once their producer found out what was happening, the consultation ended, and the door that had opened for a single day was shut again. The one outside voice who told them the truth was pushed right back out. But Hammer was right, and within a couple of years, the group would get a real chance to fix all of it. A $15 million chance, and they would tear each other apart over it. Before we get into how it all fell apart, one quick thing. If tracing where the money really goes is why you're here, subscribe so the next investigation finds you. And if you're watching this on your TV screen right now, you can still help us out. Grab your remote, hit the like button, and select subscribe right there on the screen. It takes 2 seconds, and it tells YouTube to put these breakdowns in front of more people. Now back to the $15 million deal that never happened. After Funky Divas made them one of the biggest acts in music, a new opportunity arrived. According to Maxine Jones, a label put a deal on the table worth around $15 million. This was the moment to renegotiate everything, to climb out from under a structure that had paid the singers 2 cents an album, to finally own a piece of what they made. It was the fork in the road, and the group walked down 2 different sides of it. To understand the stakes, it helps to know who they were dealing with. En Vogue's records came out through East West, part of the Atlantic and Electra system run by the executive Sylvia Rhone, one of the most powerful figures in the entire music industry. This was not a small independent the group could simply push around. Renegotiating meant taking on the producers who built them and the machine above the producers at the very same time. And it is worth sitting with the fact that even with one of the most powerful black women in the business sitting at the top of that system, the deal structure underneath still left the 4 women earning pennies. Robinson wanted to push anyway. She wanted to restructure the whole arrangement. But the group fractured, and the fracture, according to Robinson and Jones, ran straight through the money. Both have alleged that Terry Ellis was in a romantic relationship with producer Denzel Foster. In their telling, that relationship gave Ellis financial access and reasons the others did not have, and when it came time to fight the producers over the new deal, Ellis and Herron sided with the men who had built the group. We could not verify that relationship independently, and Ellis has never publicly confirmed it. At least one person close to the situation has disputed the details online. So we hold it as an allegation from two of the members, not as established fact. What is not in dispute is what the fork cost. Instead of taking the new deal, the group spent roughly 2 years fighting among themselves, and while they fought, the money ran out. In the end, they signed again with the same producers they had been trying to escape. That deal produced the album EV3, released in 1997, which went platinum. And according to Jones, after all of it, each member took home around $280,000 before taxes. A $15 million opportunity had shrunk to roughly $280,000 ahead for a group that had already sold tens of millions of records. And to be precise about the math across their whole run, one analyst who reconstructed the payments estimated that in their 2 biggest years, the low royalty rate plus a small completion fee added up to somewhere around $60,000 each on the debut album, and roughly $110,000 each on Funky Divas. That was the reward for selling millions of records that reshaped an entire decade of music. And Dawn Robinson did not even stay for the finish. She walked out in April of 1997, the same year that deal closed, while EV3 was still being recorded. The remaining 3 re-recorded some of her lead vocals and released the album without her. The voice on Hold On left the biggest female group in R&B with almost nothing to show for a decade of platinum records. So what did the 4 women who built that group actually end up with? The public numbers are grim, and they come with a warning, because celebrity net worth figures are estimates from aggregator sites, not audited accounts. With that caveat, the commonly listed figures put Ellis and Heron at around $1.5 million each, and Jones at around $500,000. And Dawn Robinson, the lead voice on the group's biggest hits, is listed by one major net worth site at $10,000. Here is the part that says the most about how this ended. The best documented money event in the entire On Vogue story is not the record deal at all. It is the women suing each other over the name. In 2012, Cindy Heron and Terry Ellis, who controlled the name through a company called En Vogue Enterprises, sued Maxine Jones for $1 million over her use of the name En Vogue. An arbitrator ruled in early 2013 and handed Ellis and Heron the exclusive rights to the name, though notably without awarding any damages at all. Think about what that picture actually shows. 3 women who had spent a decade singing together were now fighting each other in court over who got to keep the name, while the 2 producers quietly kept the publishing on the songs the entire time. The legal trail did not end there. In 2015, a producer and label figure named Renee Moore sued the group for $310 million through his company, Roughtown Entertainment, alleging he had paid the members up front for a comeback that then collapsed when they signed elsewhere. The final outcome of that lawsuit is not clearly documented in the public record, so we flag it and keep moving. And through all of it, the 2 men at the center of the money question have stayed silent on the money. In a rare joint interview in 2024, Foster and McElroy were never asked about the underpayment claims, and they never offered a denial. What McElroy did say was that the 2 of them, in his words, won the lottery on every level with the group. The producers have never publicly rebutted a single one of the figures the members have described. For Robinson, the fall kept going after On Vogue. In 1999, she joined a new supergroup called Lucy Pearl alongside Raphael Saadiq, and she has said she turned down a major solo record deal to do it. The Lucy Pearl album was delayed. The promised financial support did not come through, and Robinson has said plainly that she fell behind on a mortgage of around $1,500 a month and lost her house during that period. In her account, she lost her home because of Sadiq. It is her version of events, and we present it as her version, but it is the bridge between the platinum records and where she is today. Now, if all of this still sounds like a story about one group with bad luck and a bitter breakup, here is the group that proves it was neither. TLC sold tens of millions of records. Their album Crazy Sexy Cool moved 14 million copies and became the only album by a female group ever certified diamond. And in 1995, at the absolute peak of that success, TLC filed for bankruptcy, declaring $3.5 million in debt. If that arc sounds familiar, it should. The math behind it is documented. According to the Los Angeles Times, TLC earned roughly 7% per album, which worked out to about 56 cents an album, and that was split 3 ways between them. The New York Times reported the group had received about 1% of the $175 million their music generated. Each member was taking home under $50,000 a year, while their records defined the decade. And years later, TLC had to pay their former manager Pebbles $3 million just to buy back the rights to their own name. As T-Boz once put it, that was $1 million for each letter in the name. It was the same recoupment structure, the same producers and managers holding the ownership, and the same artists standing last in line. It wasn't bad luck. It was how the deals were built. TLC just makes it impossible to call En Vogue an accident, because the exact same machine hollowed out the 2 biggest female groups of the same era at the same moment in time. Which brings us back to A Woman in a Car. Dawn Robinson sang lead on some of the most successful records of the 1990s. Today, one major site lists her net worth at $10,000, and in 2025, she revealed she had spent almost 3 years living in her vehicle. She has described it not as a tragedy, but as a kind of freedom, which is its own quiet indictment of the industry she gave her voice to. En Vogue still performs those songs on stage today, decades later, without ever owning the recordings that made them stars. The group sold more than 20 million records, and 3 decades later, the women who sang them are still counting what was left over. That is the gap between what an artist generates and what an artist keeps. If you want to watch the same machine take apart another voice you grew up on, that breakdown is on the screen right now.